and thank you for being with us tonight. We're going to start talking about how shift happens. And we want to welcome again all of you. I'm giving people just a minute or a few seconds here to get on before I begin the training for this evening. We're very excited about you being a part of this and offering these little workshops to bring value to you and to help you to know how to move forward in your life in ways that we can help you with. It's Life Impact. Life Impact is a faith-based training company. If you're not aware of it, we work with people who, faith-based people who are struggling to live the life that they know they can live. And we help them by helping them get out of their own way. And that's basically where the challenge is us getting out of our own way. So we're going to talk about that tonight in this process called Shift Happens. And it does take place. You know, there are people in our culture, in our world, who believes that it's impossible for us to change, that we're just who we are and there's absolutely nothing that we can do about it. There could be nothing further from the truth. Our brain is designed to change. And the scripture gives us some insight to that in Romans 12:2, where it says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you might know what is the good, the acceptable, and perfect will of God. So our brain has been designed for change. And we're going to talk about that tonight and what that process looks like, and how that you can be a part not only of that happening in your own life, but how you can be a part of helping other people change. One of the great things that has happened in the process of the development of Life Impact is that we have seen a number of people, many people's lives literally transformed. We have people sitting in our workshop sometimes that simply says, my life is changing right in front of my eyes. So we're very excited about what God has given us and about the process. And we have some rules in Life Impact as to what guides us in our training and our teachings and in our coaching with other people. First of all, we're very biblically based. Everything has to be backed up by the Bible. Secondly, we're very science oriented in the sense that we believe in the science that the Bible validates. We don't believe the Bible validates the science. We don't believe science validates the Bible. We believe the Bible validates the science. And when we have a teaching or a training that is backed up by science and confirmed by the Bible, that's what we teach and use. The next thing is that we are a product of the product. So all the people that go through our processes and become coaches, which we'll talk about later, are people that have experienced the process, and they are a product of the process that's going on. And we believe, and talk about this at length, that change is not an event, it is a process. A change that does not go through a process is not sustainable. So who we become through the process is actually more important than the goal. And we'll talk more about that a little later. So let's move forward in our process tonight, as soon as I figure out how to change the slide. Okay, here we go. I've done this enough, you'd think I'd know, but it's almost like a new learning experience for me every time I do a webinar. So again, we're very excited about you being here and taking this small step towards your personal growth. And it's something that you should celebrate. One of the things that we teach in Life Impact is celebrating victories. Most of the time, we focus on our failures rather than celebrate victories. Here's a clue for you in changing your brain. What you focus on is what you get. And people who learn to celebrate their victories have more victories. People that focus on their failures have more failures. So we really teach people to celebrate their victories so that they can develop a mindset of expecting to win. That's the difference between people with what we call the Midas touch. Everything they do seems to function, and those that live by Murphy's Law, everything that can go wrong will go wrong. It's simply a different mindset. Winners expect to win, losers expect to lose. So getting that in our mindset is extremely, extremely important. So what does shift mean? It simply means to move or cause to move from one place to another. In the way that we're looking at it is a shift in our mindset. The mind has power over the brain. Now, it's indistinguishable to us, but the brain and the mind are actually two separate entities. And when the brain, as we will see as we talk through this a little further, the brain generates all kinds of thoughts. But I have to tell you, if you're not aware of it, that the brain has a negative bias. Now, I personally believe that's the result of the fall of man, but whatever the cause of it, it's still true that we are more focused on negatives than we are on positives. So the brain has a negative bias. In other words, it's expecting things to be bad, and the brain will give you deceptive brain messages. In other words, messages that have been set up by the brain that's going to give you false information. So when we look at what shift means, it means we're moving from a mindset that's controlled by our brain to a mindset that's controlled by our values and beliefs. So we'll unpack more of that as we continue to go through this. Now, I'm going to go through this pretty quick, but if you have questions that you would like to ask, you can certainly type those in on the chat part of this, and then we'll field those questions a little later in the session tonight. When I talk about the brain having a negative bias, that's not the way God created us. As I said, I believe that's the result of the fall of man. But God actually created us that we could grow and shift our entire lives. We don't have to be the product of our nurturing or our nature. We can shift. And we're going to talk about some ways that happens tonight. So let's talk about what keeps us from shifts in our lives. Sometimes we're just stuck or we're stagnant. Now, there's a difference between being stuck and being stagnant. Think about it like this. You can be stuck. Think of an automobile if you get stuck in the mud or you're stuck on slick ice or stuck in the snow. You're not stagnant, you're moving, you're spinning, you're maybe spinning your wheels, you may not be going anywhere, but you're not stagnant. When you think of stagnant, think of a pool of water that has no water flowing into it, no water flowing out of it. It's just stagnant. Now, we can be in either one of those places in our lives. We can feel stuck. We know where we're wanting to go. We're trying our best to get there. We know the changes that we want to make, but we're stuck, like stuck in the mud, stuck in the snow, stuck on ice. Um, I wrote a book some time ago. One of the chapters is called Stuck on the Right Road Home. And it came out of my experience when I lived in Oklahoma, where we had ice storms. There were times I knew where I was going. I know the route to get home, but I was spinning my wheels on the ice and couldn't get there. And sometimes it's that way for us in life. And particularly as believers, we know the direction we want to go. We know our purpose. We know our the thing that our passions, but we're stuck. We can't seem to get there. And what would cause us to be stuck is living in a situation with limiting beliefs and barriers that have been created that keep us from getting to where that we want to go. And most of us are not aware of those. And if anything that we're not aware of, we cannot change. So, or stagnant. When we're stagnant, we're just living on autopilot. Now, what we mean in Life Impact by living on autopilot is that we are just literally driven by our hidden values and beliefs. They're deposited into our subconscious. They're there. We're not even aware of them. We don't know why we do what we do. We just keep doing the same thing, and we're stagnant. There's no new life coming into us. There's no challenges. There's no life flowing out of us. We're not helping anybody else. We're not receiving anything. We're not giving anything. We're just stuck, stagnant in life. That is a very, very dangerous place to be, because here you don't dream. In a stagnated stage, you don't have dreams, you don't have vision, you don't have hope. You're just living day to day, going through the same routine, and you're not even expecting anything different. When we're stuck, we're at least expecting something different, but can't seem to quite get to it. When we're stagnant, we've just given up even dreaming. Many times in our workshops, we talk about people writing their dreams down. Sometimes people can't even write one dream or two dreams, and because they're stagnant, they're on autopilot. They're just being driven by their behaviors that are internalized into their subconscious, and their subconscious is just driving their behavior. And they don't understand why they keep repeating the same thing. They keep repeating the same, having the same problems. They have the same problem in their relationships. They have the same problem in their finances. They have the same problems in their health. They have the same problems in their jobs. They have the same problems in life over and over. It's like they're living life on a wheel, like what is those little animals that run on a wheel? I can't think at the moment. Hamster, thank you, Felicia. Running like a hamster on a wheel, wondering why life can't be different. Well, we can't have a different life until we break through to some new beliefs. That's why the Bible talks about transforming the mind, renewing the mind for transformation. Sometimes we get discouraged. We've experienced disappointments, or you feel like you're not capable of change. You're not capable of shifting. That is a deceptive message from the brain. I can tell you right now that the brain will make you think you cannot change. May not have said this yet, but you'll hear me say it a number of times. Our brain will lie to us. Now, sometimes because I talk about the way the brain functions, sometimes people ask me if I believe there's a devil, and yes, I do. Bible talks about that, and there is a devil, but he's not as powerful as we tend to make him. And I'll share more of that with you. The Bible says not to give him place. One translation said, don't give him a foothold. The only place he can have a foothold is when we agree with the deceptive messages of our brain. He doesn't even have the power to generate those deceptive messages. He can hijack them, but he doesn't generate them. Our brain does that all by itself. Okay, move on here a little bit further. If you feel stuck or stagnated, if you're wondering why that you keep doing the same thing over and over, and you keep hoping for a different outcome, then you're in the right place. You can experience a shift, and your shifts can continue to come. And your life will keep getting better and better as you learn to manage your states of mind. And the thing that we want to help people accomplish is unlocking their potential. Now, the Bible has a tremendous amount to say about our potentials and what God wants to do in our lives. And in Ephesians chapter 1, verse 11, it tells us that we find ourselves, we find our potential in our relationship with Christ. It tells us that he's got glorious plans for us. We sometimes we take that as some kind of a mystical, spiritual dream in the sky. No, this is the reality of life. This is, God gave us a purpose and a destiny here in this life. And it's ours to unlock it and to discover it and unlock it, and living out the dreams and purposes that are already in you. Now, the difference between what we teach and what sometimes is taught in what we call the New Age movement, they teach that you create your destiny. In Life Impact, we believe that your destiny comes as a blueprint on your life, and yet you discover your destiny. So if we discover our destiny, and we have ways of helping you do that, then you can unlock your potential and experience everything that God has for you in the process of the change. So let's look at some things, 3 different ways of helping you in the growth transmission. Number 1 is taking personal responsibility for your growth. Now, growth doesn't just happen automatically. It has to be planned. It has to be purposeful. It has to have some intentionality. Or otherwise, you are just motivated controlled by your internalized beliefs. And those internalized beliefs were deposited into you at a very, very early age. When you don't have a plan, you don't have a purpose, you don't have intentionality, then you are the victim of your subconscious training, your subconscious beliefs and values. And you become a victim, and you have a victim mentality. Now, one of my clients a number of years ago, I said to her, you're sounding like a victim. And she came back to me and said, I am a victim. Well, we're not diminishing anything that's happened to people. I've worked with people that from all walks of life who have experienced some very, very damaging things. Rape victims, sexual molestation, male and female. One of my clients was a 75-year-old man that was sexually molested by another man when he was a boy, 12 years old. He was 75. And he told me, I've never told anybody about this in my life, but he had carried the stain of that shame for all of his adult life. He'd never even confessed it, never even told his wife. They'd been married more than 50 years, and he had never even told his wife. So in a session with me, he shared with me the thing that had been holding him back for decades. And when he was set free, it was so powerful to watch the change that took place in his life, even though he was in his mid-70s. So here's what we have to understand. What happened to us may not be our fault, but the healing is our responsibility. So we're not diminishing anything that's happened to anybody. I could tell you some horror stories of people that I've worked with that you would wonder how in the world they could ever overcome the things that they had experienced, the physical abuse, the emotional abuse, the sexual abuse, the rejection that they had experienced. I've worked with, I'll say dozens and dozens, I probably could say hundreds and hundreds, but that have seen transformation take place in their life when they took responsibility for their own growth. They took responsibility for their own healing. And they got out of the blame mode into taking responsibility for their own lives. And we'll look further at that here in a moment. The second step to our personal growth is developing self-awareness. You can't change anything that you're not aware of. So self-awareness is the key to beginning to experience the shifts in your life. And we're going to talk about some ways of increasing self-awareness. Let's talk briefly, before I get too far into that, let's talk briefly about what self-awareness is. Self-awareness is becoming conscious of your states of mind, how you're thinking, but even more importantly, how you're feeling, your emotional state. The reason I say more importantly is because generally speaking, we always feel before we think. So understanding how we're feeling. Now, some people are totally unaware of how they're feeling. They're unaware of the difference between sadness and anger, between hurt and sadness. They don't know how to express that. And if you don't know how to express it, then you don't know how to be aware of what you're experiencing. So becoming aware of our emotional state and our state of mind is what we mean by self-awareness. Now, there's a whole lot more to self-awareness than just those 2 points. But boy, if you get those 2 points, you're going to be ahead of most people in our culture today. So taking ownership of your emotional state. Once you can identify your emotional state, then you take ownership. What we mean by taking ownership is you stop blaming other people for how you're feeling. Now, this is huge. This is hard for people to wrap their brain around. I've spent a number of sessions with people helping them to come to grips with stop blaming other people. Let me give you an example of this. She made me so angry, or he hurt my feelings. As long as you're focused on the perpetrator, you're not owning your own emotional state. So here's a different way of saying that. Instead of saying, she made me angry, we simply say, I'm angry. Instead of saying, he hurt my feelings, we simply say, my feelings are hurt. Now, I don't know if you can feel the difference in that or not, but if you'll practice this, I promise you, you're going to feel an internal difference. Because when you focus on the external, the other person that's caused you to feel the way you're feeling, you're actually giving them power over you. When you own your own emotional state, you then are taking power over your own life. If I say she made me angry, I'm giving power to whoever she is. He hurt my feelings. I'm giving power to whoever he is. Now, the only way I can change that is to change that person. And I don't have any power to change that person. I don't have any authority over them, any power over them. I don't have that in me. But if I simply say, I'm angry, now I have the power to deal with my own anger. If I talk about my hurt feelings, my feelings are hurt. Now I have the power to deal with my hurt feelings rather than blaming somebody else. Now, we're pretty good in our culture about teaching people to blame others, particularly in our somewhat overly sensitive culture that we live in today. Everybody is easily offended. Well, I don't think we ought to purposely offend anybody, but I also want to tell you that if you take responsibility for your own emotional state, then other people don't have the power to offend you. When you move to that state of being, everything changes. Okay. Focusing on your emotional state and not who caused it. Being empowered to be a change of you instead of giving the power to others. If I continue to focus on the person who has hurt my feelings, then my feelings can never be okay until that person apologizes. And that's no guarantee that my feelings are going to change. But that's generally where we want to put the focus. We even do that spiritually. We give the devil too much. The devil, I had this conversation with somebody today, talking about spiritual warfare. Your spiritual warfare is not with the devil. Your spiritual warfare is with your state of mind. That's what we've got to deal with, is our state of mind, so that we don't give place to the devil. That's what the Bible is talking about there. And we've misused that. When we as believers always blame the devil for whatever we're going through, we're giving more power to him than we are to God. Okay, I won't sermonize tonight, I promise. All right. Now, shift begins to happen in our lives based on the 3 points that I've just given you. Taking responsibility for your personal growth, developing a high level of self-awareness, taking responsibility for your emotional state. If you just took those 3 principles and started practicing them, you're going to start feeling an internal shift in your life. So those are the things that help us change our mindset. Now, once we do that, it begins to open us up to dreaming dreams again, to having goals, setting goals. Now, this is a big issue for a lot of people. And so in Life Impact, we teach people how to set goals so that they don't end up disappointed. That's the fear a lot of people have of setting goals. And then we expose limiting beliefs. And we create new experiences and go to new levels that people have never been before. This is so exciting, and it's so addictive. Here's what I mean by addictive. As a coach, a transformational coach, I am addicted to seeing people's lives changed. It's just nothing more gratifying than seeing somebody break out of an old pattern of behavior. I don't care if it's just their personal life, their financial life, their relationship life, their health, whatever it is. To see them start moving powerfully forward is so gratifying. And it really puts us into the place that God intended for us to be, and that is in a state of continual growth and development, becoming whole so that we can be holy. We get that backwards most of the time. And it's impossible to be holy if we're not whole. It's impossible for us to be complete and fulfilled if we're not developing these kind of growth patterns. So God created us to grow, God created us to heal, and God created us to shift in our lives so that we can see more things. Now, when you begin shifting, you start becoming the best version of you. And then you want to help other people do that. You want to help other people in your circle of influence. They start seeing what's happening in you. One of our coaches, he started getting clients simply because of the change in his own life. People said to him, "We want to know what you're doing. What's happened in you?" And he told them that he'd been going through some training with Life Impact and our Life Impact shift process. And they said, "Well, whatever you've got, whatever you've been doing, we want it." And the influence of his change created a hunger and a desire in the people in his circle. And now he's working with people in several different states, helping them to have the change that they're wanting to have. When you change, it gives other people permission to change, and other people permission to have hope and to have dreams and to have fulfillment. And it's extremely powerful and something that everybody can enjoy being a part of. Okay, so how does this apply to coaching? Because that's primarily now what we do in Life Impact. I still work with a few clients in the transformational coaching, but we want to help other people do what we do. So if you are the kind of person that people come to for help, for advice, or to be mentored, then you are already a great candidate to be a coach. This means that you have gone to a place now that you can lead others. People are looking up to you. Now, you may not have the tools to do it with, and you might be a little scared at times because you're not sure how to help them to get to where that they want to go. But when you become a product of the product of Life Impact, you have those tools. You have that training, you have that skill set, and you know the best practices in helping people to attain what they're wanting to attain. Okay. This is what sets us up and sets us apart from other coach training companies. Now, I have training in 3 different certifications of coaching beyond my counseling certifications and degrees. I went through 3 different ones, and none of them required anything from me except for me to pay them. There wasn't any focus on my own personal transformation. But we want our coaches to be able to coach with integrity, authenticity, with excellent skills, best practices, and the tools to help people become who God has created them to be, by helping them to discover who they are. So I'm going to give you an opportunity, if you have any questions, either about the material that we've talked about, or before we get into the next part of this, what our processes might be. I've given you just some highlights of what we focus on in the first 4 weeks of our program. We want you to become the best leader of yourself. Here's what we know. When leaders don't know how to lead themselves and haven't dealt with their own issues, they lead other people into their weaknesses, into their own limiting beliefs, into their own pathologies. I could give you a number of examples of this, but I won't take the time to do that tonight. But not only do we need to be good leaders of ourselves, we need to have the tools to discern the people that we're following so that we're not led into somebody else's pitfalls. Happens all the time. Happens in the corporate world. It happens in relationships. It happens in the church world, because people are not good leaders of themselves. So one of the things that we're committed to in Life Impact is helping you become an effective leader of yourself so that you can effectively lead other people. The science and the art of coaching is not to tell people what to do, but it is to know how to help people discover the answers that they already have within themselves. Okay, so if you have, Felicia is online and going to share with us any feedback, questions that we might be able to help you with. Felicia, we have any questions come in?
No, no questions right now. So if you guys have any, send them our way.
Okay. All right. Okay. Alicia, you want to go into what we're offering?
Yeah, of course. All right, guys. First, thank you so much for taking the time on a Monday evening, the last day of September, to be on the call with us. Like, we consider it an honor, a privilege to do what we do. Just this last Thursday, one of our transformational coach classes just wrapped up their 16th week and completed. And at the end, we asked them to share what the experience was going through their 16 weeks, and to hear them say, first and foremost, most of them were sharing just how their life has been impacted, and then sharing how it's already affecting their family, their friends, and they're having, coaching sessions with people and seeing their lives change. Like, I got teary-eyed. It never gets old. I don't know, we're up to about over 170 coaches now, and what we do does change lives. And first and foremost, like Doc was saying, we're products of the product. Our lives have been changed. We experience shifts all the time. Our coaches, people that go through our other, packages like personal transformation or relationship coach, experience shifts in their life. And if you're on this call right now and you got anything from it, like Doc was mentioning in the beginning, we tend to not celebrate those steps, but it's the tiny shifts. It's the totality of the tiny shifts that equate to big transformation in our life. And, I know personally, and like Doc said, we're a faith-based, company. So most of us are believers. We do have some people that go through the course that are not, and we love them and totally, their lives get transformed too. But, my history is that I didn't grow up with any type of personal development, didn't even know it was available till like 7 years ago. And I went to Doc's, if you guys know the story, I went to a disc workshop and it changed my life. Literally in that moment, that day, my life was changed, and it changed the whole direction of my life completely and totally in a way that I never even dreamed to this way. I never even kind of made the dreams this large for my life. But how I remembered before, though, I remember very clearly how I felt before. And I remember having the ache inside that I knew that there was something more. I knew there was something. It was almost like if you've ever even experienced a heartbreak or something, it was like this ache. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do about this? And, before knowing Jesus, when I knew Jesus, it changed, and I knew I was loved and belonged, but that ache for more was still there. And I'm totally grateful to God that he kept it there, because it was an invitation from him. It's an invitation to all of us that there is something more. If you've heard me share my story, I was in church, I immersed myself into every single Wednesday night Bible study, Sundays, morning Sunday school, just to keep myself out of trouble. But I remember like going down the altar at least bi-weekly, bi-monthly, and saying, what's your prayer request? I'm like, I feel like there's something more. I feel like there's something more. And everybody always telling me, read your Bible more, pray more, and I'm like, I'm doing that. And I know that now that they had the best of intentions, but they didn't have these tools in their life themselves. They hadn't experienced them more in life. So they could only lead me as far as they've been. They couldn't take me anywhere that they've never been. They couldn't tell me about anything that they hadn't experienced themselves. And I think sometimes, when they're like, I also got it told to me, like, hey, just be complacent with what you have. Be grateful for what you have, which I'm grateful for what I'm having, but it does God no glory and no good to not unlock the potential that's in you. Like, sometimes we feel like, oh, I should just be okay with what I have, and God's calling you to another level that, when we become all we were created to be, it shows him off. It gives him glory when we become the best versions of ourselves. So I was at this growth summit this past week, and I love what someone said about personal development. He sums it up like this. He said, personal development and personal growth is to deeply experience life. That's really what it is. It's to deeply, and not just experience life, but this life. This is the only life that we have, guys. This is the only life that we have. And if you feel like there's something more in you, there's something more to experience, trust me when I say that there is. I am a living example of it. Doc is a living example of it. Our team, our coaches, people that have gone through our personal transformation, through, you know, relationship and everything else, that it is possible. And if anything, it's a promise from God. And if we take that step out and we keep taking those steps, he meets us there and everything's already in you. So with that said, if you do feel like there's something more, if you are like, you know what, that's me, I know that I have something more in me and I'm ready to take the responsibility. I'm ready to take that next step. I'm not saying that it's like totally easy, because you're going to be, you know, but I'm going to say it's worth it, because you don't know what you don't know. So we have a couple of different things. Like Doc mentioned, our first and foremost thing is training coaches, training transformational coaches. Why? Because we know that we can make so much of a greater impact by training other individuals to impact their influence, to hit their circles. And guess what? Then those circles hit new circles. So that is what we're all about. That is Doc's legacy, is that we are trained and we train others so that they can make an impact. And really, it hits both if you're interested in impacting other people's lives. If you know inside you're like, I have such a desire to help people, this is for you. But we also hit both at the same time. Like he said, the first 4 weeks, and you actually have 6 weeks of the process that you go through online, is about focusing on you as a leader, focusing on a leader of yourself. And those first 4 weeks that we covered in the group atmosphere are so dynamic. It doesn't matter if we have coaches that have had psychology degrees, that have been doing this for a long time, have other coaching, you know, certificates and trainings. That first 4 weeks together, always people are like, my life is changing. Even if they came and were like, I just want to be a coach, I just want to help people. They had no idea that the impact of what the first 4 weeks would have on their life that carried, like I just mentioned, the people that just completed their 16 weeks, how it impacted their life. So with the transformational coach, it hits you because, again, we are products of the product. There is no way around it. Don't contact us and ask, since you've been through another certification company, can you get it lower price and can you skip anything? No, you cannot. We don't need that question, because we have a very distinct DNA of life impact that we know it's a proven process, a proven method that has you get tools. These are tools that you're going to use throughout your whole entire life that change your life and help you equip others to experience transformation in their life. So that's our first thing. We have transformational coach certification. Then we do also have, if you're like, I don't think I want to be a coach, or right now I'm just like in just the hardest time of my life. I can't even dream. I can't even see my future. We understand that. And trust me, I've been there. So we do have different packages or programs for that too, you know, that focus on personal growth, building your foundation. We also have it on marriage. We have marriage programs that bring marriages from also rock bottom to a healthy state. And then also, if you have just a good marriage, taking your marriage from good to great. So we have that. And so our offer to you tonight, or our invitation, is that if any of those resonate with you, if any you're like, oh yeah, where am I going to jump in on this? We're going to give you a special discount, those that are on the call tonight, that it's going to be 10% off whichever program you decide to go with, transformational coach, the personal or relationship. And we have amazing coaches that bring through the personal and the marriage, been trained, been doing work with Doc for 3+ years. Like, these people are incredible. And if you're still on the fence, if you're not sure, we also have a free coaching session where we will walk you through whatever your goal is and how to get you to your goal, how to get you to the life, like I just said, you know, what is personal growth? Experiencing life on the deepest level that you were created to, whatever the pathway is to get you there. And you'll get all that information with the replay that's going to go out to you tomorrow. And also, don't forget this upcoming Saturday, we actually have our first live webinar 3-hour workshop, which we've never done this before. Live webinar is on living beyond your personality. just let you know, one of our foundational things at Life Impact is the DISC personality behaviors, because, and that's the first workshop I went to that changed my life, is that once you understand your personality type and why, or, you know, how you do the things you do, and can celebrate yourself, and it helps you understand others, it changes your life. And it also, when we're talking about self-awareness, it opens up your self-awareness when you see your behaviors and everything right in front of your face. So, you know, we perfected the DISC, and we also, Doc created something that is like, you will never, I'm telling you, you'll never see it anywhere else, because it doesn't exist. Living beyond your personality. And living beyond your personality focuses on the combinations, because we're all usually 99% of the population is a combination. So it focuses on what the combination of the personalities looks like. Then also, like, it gives distinctions if you're in a healthy state, an average state, or an unhealthy. And we all fluctuate between all of them. But when you're living life, you'd be like, oh man, I think I'm bordering the unhealthy part. Let me just bring my self-awareness and some self-regulation in here. And then also we focus on also the preoccupations of the different personality types. And these are what keeps you from living in the present, what keeps you from, a lot of times, is that being able to be aware of something, to take responsibility of something that you're literally using to avoid dealing with life. And it's usually on a subconscious level. And so we go all into that, and it's going to be a 3-hour live webinar. And even included in your registration, you get a free 1-hour DISC crash course, in case you're not familiar with DISC, because you do want to watch that before Saturday, so you have that foundation. So we're going to dive right in. And I think someone's asking a question right now about that. Should we do the DISC assessment before the webinar on Saturday?
No.
Okay, good question. If you've registered, then you got the crash course already. If you've never been exposed to DISC before, yes, take the assessment before watching it, if you're going to do an online assessment or anything, because sometimes people like to fill out the DISC assessment the personality they want to be. Because then when you know what all the different behavior types are, you're like, well, I feel like I like being around people, you know, like, because you want to be an I personality or whatever. Or you're like, I want to put that I'm very detail oriented, because you want to be a C personality. So yeah, so I would suggest taking, if you want to do, there's tons of free assessments online, take that before watching anything. But yeah, DISC assessments are always good. And we have our own too, if you're ever interested in ours. Ours is super in depth. But yeah, so that is only $10.99. And the whole value of getting the DISC crash course and the training is normally something that would cost over $100. So do it. $10.99 for this Saturday. And the cool thing is you can just show up in your pajamas. It's a Saturday, have a nice cup of coffee, whatever. You don't have to like feel weird about going to the bathroom. Just push pause, go off the video and go. Like, it's really cool. And then even if you're not, even if for some reason you know you can't attend live on Saturday, you will get the replay and have access to it for 7 days. So you'll always win with that too. So you'll get all that information tomorrow with the offers, with the next steps of becoming, if you want to become a coach, go through one of our other programs that are life-changing, or take advantage of the free coaching session. I should have said this about the free coaching session. If you've had a free coaching session or gone through any of our programs or trainings or certifications in the last 2 years, I'm sorry, you are not eligible for the free coaching session. Just make the decision and know what you want to do. Okay, we'll send you the programs, and then you can decide what you want to do. That means you're ready. So we'll send that all to you tomorrow. Thank you guys all for being on the call and making the most out of your Monday. Literally think about that you just crushed your Monday. You spent a Monday evening investing into you, and that is huge. So Doc, do you have anything else to say?
Thank you, Felicia. I just want to encourage you that if this is something you feel like God is directing you to do, then take the leap of faith. You won't be disappointed. You get a culmination. Felicia talked about this being my legacy, and it certainly is. Many of you know that I was a lead pastor for 40 years. Retired from that in 2007. I've been on staff at CFTN now for 11 years. So I keep talking about being in ministry for 40 years. Actually, it's been, this is hard for me to say, it's been more than 50 years. I must have started it too. But seriously, the culmination not only of a lifetime of ministry, but a lifetime of training. I've immersed myself in not only the Bible, but in the science of change, the neuroscience of change. There's nothing that the Bible confirms more than the neuroscience of change. How we change, if we change our mind, we can change our brain. That's a neuroscience statement. That's why the Bible talks about transforming your mind, being transformed by renewing your mind. Not talking about the conscious mind, it's talking about the subconscious mind. And that's the most powerful thing that's going on in the area of neuroscience and the science of change, and how that is impacted. And as Christians, that we should be the leaders in this, not the followers, because we've got the biblical basis for all of this. And so we bring you a lifetime of ministry, biblical perspective, science perspective, and then being a product of the product perspective. So we really feel good about our product and what it's doing, not just here, but around the world. We're seeing people now being trained. Felicia has trained people in Haiti. We've got one of our coaches that's training now people in Romania, and we've got other places that's wanting us for training and development. So a lot here to be done. You cannot be in life impact and be stagnant unless you choose to do so. Again, thank you for being on the call. If we can be of service to you in any capacity, personal transformation, relationship transformation, or you becoming a transformational coach, we'd love for you to be a part of it. So good night and God bless you. And you'll get a copy of this tomorrow and more information. So thank you again for being here tonight. And we look forward to talking to you soon. So good night.